So ghusl basically, it's an Arabic word. It basically means bathing or cleaning your body with water. Okay, that's what ghusl is. But in Sharia, in our Islamic Sharia, there is a different meaning to it. It's just not something regular shower that we take. There are two kinds of ghusl that we need to be aware of. Okay, one is the ritual ghusl, and the other one is regular ghusl. Okay, the one that we usually take, get up in the morning, get into the shower, so that comes under regular shower. Okay, and this ritual ghusl is something that is required under certain circumstances, and this is what there are some rules regarding it. And in order for you to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you need to be aware of this one, ritual ghusl. Okay, now before we when we started this topic of fiqh of tahara, we talked about different kinds of impurities that our body gets into, our soul gets into. We talked about major impurity, minor impurity, and state of purity. Those were the three states. Okay, now if you are having major impurity, you are not allowed to worship salah and other things. Tawaf we mentioned last time. So this ghusl becomes important. If any of us does not know how to make ritual ghusl, then our prayers will not be valid. Okay, so this is very important for us to know what this is, how important it is, and some people know about it, but they don't exactly know the requirements of it, how to do it. And there are a few things which are sunnah, there are a few things which are obligatory. So now I'm going to discuss all those things. So once you do this ghusl, ritual ghusl, also called ghusl of janaba, and we're going to discuss all different types, you come from major impurity and you go into state of purity straight away. Okay, but regular ghusl, you just stand in shower and you don't have major impurity. You probably don't have wudu, so that's minor impurity. Or you already have wudu, but still you are taking a shower. Okay, so that's called regular ghusl. Now the important distinction between these two is that in this ghusl, ritual ghusl, if you make this ghusl, you automatically have wudu. Even if you don't do wudu during that ghusl, you automatically reach the status of wudu. Okay, so there is no status like you go from major impurity to minor impurity. That doesn't happen. Once you remove major impurity, you automatically have wudu. Okay, so that's one thing that you need to remember. And there are different types of ritual ghusl, or the situation wherein you have to take. We are going to talk about it. So, but this one of them is ghusl of janaba. Okay, ghusl of janaba. Inshallah, we will talk about it. Now, so when is this required? When do we have to take ghusl? When does it become compulsory, obligatory to do this kind of ghusl? There are, scholars mentioned, 5 different scenarios where you have to compulsorily do this ritual ghusl. Okay, so what are those types? First thing, janaba. Now, okay, so this religion that we are discussing here, there is no shame involved here. And if we shy away and don't learn these things, our worship is at risk. On the day of judgment, our worship will not be accepted. So I'm going to be very straightforward, and I'm going to discuss everything. So you need to learn, and you need to even teach this to your children, your friends, no matter what their age is. Even if they are small, eventually they need to learn this and utilize this. I know so many of my friends, when I was a teenager, they had no clue about this ritual ghusl and ghusl of janaba, and they have been praying for like 15 years like that, or whatever, And, that's the problem. We shy away and we don't even discuss these things with our friends, with our colleagues. And what happens is, all their worship they will find on the day of judgment, it's not accepted. So this is why I am going into detail of all these things, why we need to learn the minute details even. Some people ignore it. Okay, first, this Arabic term that you need to understand, what is janaba. Okay, and we're going to discuss all the other parts as well. So one by one. So janaba, this is basically for adults. There are two kinds how you can reach this state. Janaba is basically a state that a body gets into. In English, we call it sexual defilement. So when adults, they ejaculate this fluid that we call money. We are going to discuss detailedly about different kinds of fluids. But when that ejaculation happens, when the money comes out, you automatically reach that state of janaba. You become junub. Okay? So when you reach that state, you automatically have major impurity. Okay? You cannot worship. Even if you make just wudu and pray, it's not going to be valid. You have to make ghusl. Wudu is not sufficient. That's one part. Money will cause you to become junub. The other thing of you can become junub is contact of private parts. So a man's private parts and woman's private parts, if there is a contact, there's a hadith because of which this person becomes junub. Okay? So this applies to both men and women, both the ejaculation and both the contact. This, again, it happens to both men and women. So this is what you need to be aware of. And it doesn't matter when this happens and how it happens. If it happens during unconsciousness, it's still you still become junub. And whether in the second aspect, when there is a contact, it doesn't matter whether there was ejaculation involved or not. If there was a contact, that's it, you become a junub. Okay? Now, even if some people are sleeping, for example, they don't know, they wake up and they realize, oh, I had a wet dream, I see this sexual fluid on my pants or something. So that's, again, you become junub, you don't even realize it. Okay, so this is, again, something you should know. All right. What if somebody has a barrier, like some people use contraceptive methods, for example, and they want to delay their childbirth or whatever, so they use this contraceptive methods and they have a barrier. When the contact happens, there is a barrier, it's not skin to skin. Okay, in that case, the scholar said that it still becomes junub. Okay, it still becomes junub. Doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be skin to skin, it still is becomes a junub, a person becomes junub. Okay, so this hadith is in Muslim, that when a person, even if he does not ejaculate, he will become junub. The ghusl becomes obligatory. Now for sisters, they might ask a question. If they go to, for example, a hospital or a clinic, and maybe she's pregnant or whatever, sometimes they have to insert this tube in their private parts for some test, right? So does that break ghusl? Or does that cause them to reach major impurity? Do they have to compulsorily do ghusl? The answer is no, it does not, because again, as we said, there has to be contact of what? From private part to private part. That's what we are talking about, not some external thing. Okay? All right. Next one, hayd, menses, and nifas. You got to know these Arabic words, brothers and sisters, okay? Then nifas is postnatal and hayd is menses. We are going to again talk about these different kinds of blood of women later on, inshallah, but just to give you a high-level overcap. So the sisters, women, go through these monthlies where they have the cycle of menses, what we call, right? In Arabic, it's called hayd, okay? And when you have this, you automatically get into the state of impurity, major impurity. Now, nifas is also similar, but except that it happens after the childbirth, okay? And it is for like 40 days maximum, okay? And maybe less, but not more than 40 days. If somebody is in their menses, they immediately take ghusl. It doesn't automatically get them out of their major impurity. What needs to happen? It has to end, okay? The menses have to end. The bleeding needs to stop. And once that stops, then they make ghusl. Then they come out of their major impurity, and now they are in the state of purity. Similarly, same thing, exactly same for nifas, that they have to wait until the 40 days or whenever the bleeding stops, and then they can take ghusl, and then they will be free to worship. Number 5. number 4, the acceptance of Islam. So some scholars mention this, that when you accept Islam, you need to take ghusl, the ritual ghusl, not regular ghusl. Again, this is ritual ghusl. You have to take that, and then you are allowed to worship and continue other things. And some scholars said it must just suggest a recommendation, but some scholars were saying no, it is compulsory. And they basically are saying that if it's an adult who converted, right? So he or she might already be a junub, right? Because they don't have a ritual ghusl in their religion, and we don't approve of it. So in order for that to happen, in order for them to become in a state of purity, they have to make ghusl. Anyway, so that's something that we can keep in mind. Because Rasulullah ﷺ did mention this in many ahadith, that he told a sahabi, take him to the garden of Banu of so-and-so, and then tell him to do ghusl, because he converted at that time. And also another sahabi, he told him to do ghusl with water and lotus leaves when he converted to Islam. The last one, death of a person. When somebody dies, it's very clear, right? We compete in giving ghusl to this person, right? So there's a lot of rewards. We made the whole series out of it, if you remember, 2-3 years ago, a whole lecture on how to do the kafan and burial and everything. So this is again fard kifaya. This is something that needs to be done. It needs to happen. Rasulullah ﷺ also mentioned this many ahadith. And also when his daughter died, he told the woman that wash her with water 3 or 5 times, or as many times as you fit. So this is hadith from Sahih al-Bukhari. Who can tell me when we don't give ghusl to a dead person? In what situations? At least 3. Tell me at least 3. Shaheed, okay, 1, good. Who else? We don't give ghusl to the dead person. It's a rare scenario, basically. If you're traveling, for example, and a woman passed away, and in that group is only men, and we need to bury her, so we can't reveal her aura, her private part. So we just have to. Scholar said we just do tayammum of her, and we just bury her like that. And same thing. I mean, if you don't have water, you're traveling, and somebody passes away, what are you going to do? You do tayammum and just bury him like that. So, anyways. We covered again all these different scenarios in that lecture. If water is missing, right? So, yeah, those videos are also there if you want to look. Now, but there are some times when it's not obligatory to do ghusl, but it's recommended. Okay, so this becomes which type of ghusl now? Ghusl, ritual ghusl, or the general ghusl? A recommendation ghusl. This is the general ghusl because this is not obligatory anymore. The ritual ghusl is what is obligatory. It's compulsory. So, but there are other times where it's recommended. The first one is a little bit controversial. Some scholars were saying that this is obligatory because the word wajib is mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari, and that's why Imam Bukhari has this opinion that it is compulsory for you to make ghusl on Friday. But there's another hadith which says it is sunnah, it's a recommendation. But anyways, many scholars, majority of them said it's a recommendation, because in that very same hadith wherein Rasulullah ﷺ mentioned it's wajib to do ghusl on Friday, he also mentioned using miswak and putting perfume, right? It's Friday today. I don't think everybody put perfume, right? So your Friday is valid, your Jummah is valid. Okay, so that wajib, the word, scholar said that it is meant to say it's highly recommended, okay? But your prayers are valid, and inshallah everything is okay. But this is again a recommendation. And second thing, on the day of Eid, it has been the practice of the Sahaba, and so the scholar said that this is again, you do it on every Eid, you make ghusl and then you pray. And also, sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before you wear your ihram, if you want to go for Umrah or Hajj, you make ghusl and then you wear your ihram. And after giving ghusl to the deceased, so again the same ghusl which was obligatory for him, but for yourself, since you helped him out giving ghusl, you don't have to compulsorily take that ghusl, but it's recommended, okay? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said so. He said, whoever has washed a dead person, let him do a ghusl. Okay, that's a hadith from At-Tirmidhi. All right. Now, an interesting slide and a little bit controversial also. Next one. I made a list of things that we can do, things we cannot do. Okay, the worship mainly and other actions which are allowed, things which are allowed, things which are not allowed. To make it easy for you, I made these two columns. This chart you should remember. I'm going to discuss this for a long time now because these are very important issues and also some of them are a little controversial. So not going to go into too much detail, but I think this is something which you should know. All right. So there are two differences mainly that you have to know. One is the janaba and the other one is hayd and nifas. So we just discussed it. I hope you understand it very well. Which one is just for women? Hayd and nifas. Is janaba for women? No. It is for women too. When a man and a woman have the relationship and the ejaculation is involved, then both of them reach the state of janaba. Okay? So ejaculation can happen to men and women, and the contact obviously will happen between men and women. So this can happen to both, but this blood is only for the specific to females or women, sisters. Now, I'm going to discuss each of these actions, what are allowed, what are not allowed. First one, let's take for example salah. This is the most important thing, salah, right? What's the first thing that will be asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Salah. And guess what? If some brothers and sisters, they go and they say, okay, they're very happy, oh, I did a lot of salah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says 20% of your salah, for example, is rejected because you didn't do proper ghusl even. So you didn't know that you were required to do ghusl. So janaba, if you are in a state of janaba, your salah is not valid. Your salah is not valid. Why do we say that? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself said that in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 43. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى حتى تعلموا ما تقولون ولا جنوبا إلا عابري سبيل حتى تغتسلوا. It means that, O you who believe, approach not a salah when you are in a drunken state until you know the meaning of what you utter, nor when you are in a state of janaba, except when traveling on the road, till you wash your whole body. So this word taghtasilu, ghusl, okay, it comes from ghusl. So until you wash your body, so you cannot pray your salah. Now, for sisters, this slide is very important because many of you know the answers, but there are a lot of small details that people don't pay attention to. Sisters with the hayd and nifas, even they cannot pray. That is a famous hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that a woman, she does not pray, she does not fast. But important thing here is that does she has to make up the salah those days? She doesn't have to. Now, she says, one sister says, I know I don't have to pray, but I am very pious, I'm going to pray. It's still okay. Is it okay? No. It is not okay. It's very serious actually. In fact, Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah, he said that it's like he went as far to saying that it's kufr because it's very disrespectful. Okay, that was his opinion. And actually this is very important issue for sisters because most of the times they are shy. For example, people get together and they say, okay, let's pray together. So some sisters don't want to tell others that I have my menses, for example. So what do? They pray with them just for, because they are shy. But this is serious because a scholar said that it is more important, more deserving for you to be shy of Allah than this, because this is a serious matter. This is considered disrespect to Islam. You are not supposed to pray salah. Next thing, fasting. A junub person can fast. So basically what it means is, it's Ramadan time and you sleep and then you wake up and then you realize, oh my God, it's 8 o'clock already and I didn't take my ghusl. I already started my fasting. Is my fasting valid or is my fasting cancelled? I didn't even eat any suhr. So the answer is yes, your fasting is valid. Even though you probably missed Fajr, you didn't have your meals before Fajr, your fasting is still valid. The important thing is you don't eat for the rest of the day. But for sisters, again have a cross mark there. She cannot fast. She cannot fast. What is the difference between salah and fasting when it comes to women? There is one important difference. What is it?
Fasting, they have to make it up.
Fasting has to be made up. Very important. Very, very important. Okay? If some sisters just take this excuse and they say, okay, it applies to fasting as well, and they don't fast, and within years they realize that, oh my God, I have so many fastings to cover. So this knowledge is again so much important. Many sisters don't know this. All right. Next one is tawaf. So if you are not in a state of purity, you cannot make tawaf. We covered this already. But wudu is required. Not only ghusl, but wudu is required. But it applies to both of them. For janaba and haid and nifas, even sisters cannot make tawaf. Why do we say that? It's a hadith from Sahih al-Bukhari. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told our mother Aisha radiallahu anha that she had menses at that time of Umrah. He said, do everything that the pilgrims do, but do not circumambulate the house until you become pure. Do not make tawaf of the house. So this is from Sahih al-Bukhari. Now, touching mushaf. Touching a mushaf. So if you're in a state of major impurity, now you want to touch Quran. Why? Because probably your kid might have placed it somewhere and you want to just take it and keep it somewhere or whatever. So you want to touch it. Are you allowed to touch it? No, you are not allowed to touch. You have to have purification, in a state of purity. And the scholars mentioned the verse of Surah Al-Waqi'ah, wherein Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. None can touch except the purified. And this is also a hadith in An-Nisa'i as well, that no one should touch the Quran except one who is tahir, one who is pure. We discussed this already last time, but in this case now you have to pick up Quran, like maybe it's like falling down or you have to take it. So what do? You don't have purity. The scholars mention you cover it with a barrier, with a cloth or gloves or whatever, and you then move it. That's okay, that's permissible, okay? And but this applies to mushaf, is like a copy of Quran, right? It's not tafsir, okay? And if Arabic of the Quran is more than 50%, for example, if the majority is Quran, then you cannot touch it. But if it's like a tafsir or translation or something, or very less Quran, then it's okay to touch. It's not a mushaf anymore, okay? So some in books it happens, right? You take a book, there are so many verses, but it's a topic of Aqidah, for example. So most of it is going to be English and not Quran. So that's not called mushaf. Now, reciting Quran. Can we recite Quran? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one time he made wudu, and Ali radiallahu anhu was seeing him, and once he completed wudu, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he recited Quran. Then he said, this recitation, this is one who is not in junub or janaba. If one is in janaba, he may not do so, not even one verse, not even one verse. So this is coming straight from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Musnad Ahmad, hadith from Musnad Ahmad. So this recitation, no matter you are reading it from mushaf, from Quran, or from memory, it's not allowed. You cannot recite Quran in janaba. Okay. Now the problem, the controversy is in this part. What about sisters in hayd and nifas? Can they recite Quran? And this is again one of the issues where is very strong controversies among scholars. Like we say 50-50 or whatever, a lot of debates going on. So the teachers and shuyukh that I have studied with and all the evidences that they have laid out and discussed this in detail, I adopted their opinion, and I studied with many shuyukh, and they had this opinion inclining towards this, that it is permissible for a sister who is in hayd and menses to recite Quran. Of course, they cannot touch it again. How are they going to read? With a glove or on a computer screen, or with CD, electronic gadgets, whatever they have. It is okay. And this is also the opinion that I mentioned of Imam Malik and Imam Shaykhul Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayh. That was also his opinion, and many other scholars. And our Sheikh Walid Basyuni was very particular about it. He said that yes, sisters can read. And basically, why scholars are very adamant about this, because as we said, a sister, she cannot pray, she cannot fast. Now if you tell her you cannot even read Quran, not even from your memory, you see, not only she is physically weak, she is spiritually weak also. And now you're telling her you cannot even read Quran, so her, it's like a spiritual disaster for her. So that's why scholars say that bring us evidence from Quran and Hadith that it's not allowed to recite, we will take it. But there is no evidence from anywhere, Quran or Hadith, no authentic evidence. So, and this again, it is so much important also if you look at the practical implication of this, that there are sometimes, for example, a sister is going out, she has her menses, and now she is probably scared of the environment, like, there are racist people around and so much of hatred of Islam going on, and she feels unsafe. So what should you recite when you are unsafe? The best thing to recite is what? Ayatul Kursi, right? So that's again one verse from Quran, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned not even one verse for the people who are junub. So now she has nothing to recite, right? So that's why scholars said that you have to present evidence. There is no evidence. So sisters can recite, no problem. They can recite Quran, and without touching, of course. This touching, as I said, it applies to both men and women, hayd and nifas, and also janaba. They cannot. There's no way you can touch. You're reciting from memory, no problem. And also, if you want to do a quick recitation and blow on your children, so you need to do that regularly. If you don't do, you have to do, you should do. So sisters, if they're in their menses, they can recite it on their children and blow on them. This is called ruqya. That's permissible. Yes, bro.
How about reading from electronic gadgets?
Yeah, electronic gadgets for sisters, it's okay, and in major impurity.
They can.
Yes, they can. It's not considered part of mushaf because it is light. It is a reflection. Just like you keep mushaf in the mirror, for example, that's a reflection. It's not mushaf. You can't touch the mirror, right? So it's just a reflection. That's the opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayh. Yes, brother.
You said it's a bit of a controversial issue.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to understand is, I understand Imam Malik and Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, and I follow the same opinion as well, that they are allowed to touch it. But I was wondering, what is the evidence of the other scholars who say that they're not allowed to touch it? If there's no authentic hadith, what
They used qiyas, they used analogy, and they said there are only two things that causes you to go into major impurity. One is janaba, and so that's why they said hayd also applies. And by most of the hadith that we see is about hayd. To use analogy of nifas makes sense according to them, but scholars objected that you cannot jump from janaba to hayd and use qiyas or analogy. You cannot do that. You can do qiyas over these because the situations match. Okay, for janaba it's very easy. You're in janaba, you jump into the bathroom, take shower, you're out. Okay, but for hayd and nifas it's not so easy. You have to wait until all 40 days are over or all 7 days are over, and then so there is no proper qiyas there. So that's the debate that they have.
is the idea that the women don't have control over this thing? Is that like
Yes.
an idea of the ones who say it's okay?
They don't have control, so they cannot jump out. That's why there is the analogy breaks. You cannot use qiyas. Yeah. So, okay. Now let's talk another one. Staying in the masjid. So these two are the most controversial one: reciting Quran and staying in the masjid. For janaba, if you are in a state of janaba, you cannot enter the mosque. Okay, you cannot sit in the mosque. You cannot listen to a lecture. You have to take ghusl and then come to the masjid. Okay, so that is agreed. That is not a problem. But the problem is again with sisters. Scholars are again split on this one. If they are in their menses, can they come and attend the lectures? Like this halaqah, for example, right? Some sisters want to attend this halaqah. They didn't come here to pray, but they want to come here. Can they come? Well, if they don't come, they are going to lose out on all these knowledge and important aspects of our Islam. So some scholars were very strict and they said no, she cannot come, because they mentioned one hadith of in Abu Dawud, wherein they said that Rasulullah ﷺ specifically mentioned that mosque is off limits for a person in janaba and for a menstruating woman. They based it on this hadith, but scholars mentioned that that is a da'if hadith, that's a weak hadith, so that's why we cannot take it. You got to present a solid evidence. So they did not present it, and this is very important thing. It's very easy to say, okay, she can just wait 7 days and she can come back later here. But you have to understand the consequences. It's not a simple thing, because in our times, in this place, in America, for example, we don't have that access to shiur that easily, and in the places where we live in, we need to be attached to the masjids. Now, and we also have our Sunday schools, and many of our teachers are sisters, right? And if they are in menses, they cannot come, right? A quarter of the month they are in menses, for example. So who's going to teach them? So again, you have to understand the implication, and that's why scholars said, okay, present all your evidences, then let's discuss. And I'm going to discuss some of the rebuttals and some of the debate that goes on. But again, masjid is our central place. Some people have marriages, right? Some people have events, aqiqas, and some people, have different kinds of activities. And sometimes in some masjids I've seen Islamic schools actually part of masjid. So they have separate rooms, and they are all converted into classrooms, and in Jummah it becomes like a prayer place. So you have to be careful. Sisters cannot teach in Islamic schools if you are that adamant about this opinion. So that's what the scholar said, that the opinion that I follow, Sheikh Walid Basyuni and Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullah alayhi and many other scholars, they said that it is permissible for women to come to the masjid. Some scholars took the middle opinion and they said, if she has a need, she can go, or otherwise she cannot go. So let's look why scholars were very strict about this, why she cannot go. Or what are the evidences that the other side presents? First of all, one evidence is that in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a woman who used to clean the masjid, right? And she used to clean it regularly. When there was, of course, there must have been situation where she had menses, but she still used to clean the masjid, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never stopped her. Okay, so that's one evidence that they give it's okay, it's allowed. And the second thing is, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told our mother Aisha radiallahu anha, the same hadith that I mentioned, that he told her, you are allowed to do everything except what? Tawaf during their Hajj. Okay, so he didn't say you can do everything except entering Masjid al-Haram. He said everything is allowed except tawaf. So that means she can enter, but she cannot do tawaf. She can do sa'i. Sa'i doesn't require any major major purity or state of purity. You can do sa'i regardless. Okay, so that's the evidences that they're given. And the other side, the scholars mentioned that Aisha radiallahu anha was one time asked by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to give a piece of cloth, and she said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'm menstruating, I'm in my menses. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told her that your menstruation is not in your hand. Okay, so basically meaning you can just hand it over, it's okay, it's in the masjid, that's okay, no problem. So the scholar said that, look, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told her that it's just a hand, so a hand can enter the masjid. So that's what the evidence that they give. But on the other side, the scholar said, not in your hand means it's not in your control. You see the debate in the wordings that they use, how they understand the hadith. So that's why they say they are allowed to go, because it's not in her hands, so she can go and do it. It's not like she can go and take a ghusl and come out of impurity. That's one thing. And another very strong evidence as a refutation that they said that another wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Maymuna radiyallahu anha, she said that when we were in menses, one of us would take his clothes and put them in the mosque while she was in the menses. This is a hadith from An-Nasai. So she was in her menses and she would go inside the masjid and she would put the clothes there of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's a straightforward evidence. So that's the proof. Basically, other scholars took that, okay, she had the need to go there, so she is allowed. But there is no such evidence otherwise to prove that only if you have a need you can go. Okay, so again, just to put some these evidences in front of you. And also, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are many hadith about the Eid prayer, wherein he told the people that women who are menstruating, they should come out. Okay, they should witness the blessings of Eid and see the gathering of the believers, and they were told to say the takbirat, come with everybody to the Eid prayer. The only thing they were told is stay away from the prayer place. Stay away from the prayer place. So what one group said that, okay, look, she is not allowed to come to the prayer place. But it doesn't mean she cannot come. Basically, they were told not to be in the prayer place because they are going to break the saf, right? People are lined up, women are lined up, and she is just sitting there, and she's going to break the line. So she cannot be directly in the prayer place. She can sit a little bit away, okay, so that she doesn't interrupt. So that's how the scholars took this opinion. Okay, and other hadith that they present, they specifically says women cannot enter the masjid. But again, we ask them, are you sure this is authentic? And they themselves say, no, it is daif hadith. So, we can just argue and say, okay, it's just daif, just to be on the safe side, do this, do that. But you have to understand the implications. If a sister cannot come to masjid, you know what's going to happen, right? She's going to miss out on so many things. Again, as we said, she becomes so physically and spiritually weak. If she doesn't have access to this knowledge, she cannot get together. I don't know about this masjid, but many masajids I have seen, their sisters are so active, volunteers. They have sister committees in the masjid. And they have youth groups managed by sisters. And if you tell them, no, you are in menses, you cannot come, these sisters committee will not work, will not exist. Okay? So scholars in America, they were very particular. They say, bring us the evidence and we will accept. But there is no strong evidence, and that's how they refuted all these other ahadith that they mentioned. But anyways, some scholars do say, in fact, many scholars say that, in Saudi Arabia, I have seen, in Indian subcontinent also I have seen, there are many scholars, again, they were split on this, and they said, no, she cannot enter, because there it's very easy to say, they have access to scholars, they have nothing to lose. But the scholars on the other side, they said, no, present as the evidences. But anyways, I'm not going to go too much detail. If you follow an opinion, if you want to follow with it, that's fine, no problem. But I just have to mention, if the sisters want to know what my shuyukh preferred opinion is. Next one is listening to Quran. This is very easy. There's no disagreement about this one. Anybody can listen Quran. Kafir can listen Quran, okay? And you can listen as much as you want from the CD or tape. You don't even have to have wudu. Don't even have to have full purification. You can be junub and still listen to it. Now a question. A sister is listening Quran from the CD. She hears a verse of prostration, sajda. What should she do? Should she make sajda? The scholar said that no, she does not do sajdatul tilawa. She cannot do, because again, it's part of salah, right? It's a small part of salah, so they cannot do that. Okay. Yes.
If you are listening to recitation from CD or tape, there's a ayah of sajda.
Mhm.
So do you have to do sajda?
No, you cannot do sajda. You should not do sajda. For
No.
sajda, you need a state of purity.
No, I'm saying in general.
In general, oh yeah, in general, yes, you have to. It's highly recommended that you do. But I'm talking about just the major impurity part,
Right.
wherein you cannot pray even. Okay.
Because I've heard from another scholar that if you are driving in a car or you're listening somewhere else, it's not the real person reciting, it's just a tape.
Yeah, yeah. I have heard that one as well, but you know.
But Sajda Tilawa doesn't need to do it.
I have heard again both the opinions. I mm-hmm.
And he recited the ayah of sajda, and he prostrated.
He prostrated, yes.
Did it. The
Other scholars said that.
he didn't do it.
Yeah. So for certain cases, what the evidence is that scholars say that it is not compulsory, it's not obligatory. Everybody says that it is not obligatory, but when it comes to a recommendation, they said, okay, should we really do it or not? Okay, so if you're driving, of course, you cannot stop the car and take your musalla out and then do such that. It doesn't make sense. So you don't have to do it, but it's highly recommended. I think we covered this when we were talking about Ulum al-Quran, right? So, yeah, so Umar radiallahu anhu was one time giving khutbah. Now there is a need. Just like driving, it is a need, and he did not prostrate one time, and one time others did. So that's what the evidence is that scholars say that it's not compulsory. But again, we are talking about major impurity here. You need to have a state of purity. For wudu, yes, I follow the opinion that you do not need to have wudu. You can still make sajdatul tilawa. Okay. Another one, dua and zikr. Do you need to have ghusl for making that dua or dhikr? Answer is, as I have it here, you do not need to. You can just say it, whatever you want. Scholars made a little exception here. They said that, what if it's a dua from the Quran? Like if somebody wants to say, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan. It's a dua, right? So can you make that dua? It's a part of a verse. So scholars said that if it is, a phrase from the Quran, then it is okay. Like somebody passes away or dies and you say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. That's also a part from Quran. So now you don't have tahara, you need to make ghusl. So it's okay to say, there is no problem with it. But when it is recited as, as a recitation, you make the intention and you recite it that way, then that's a problem. You cannot. For Junud Janaba, that is. But of course, as we said, for Hayd and Nifas, they can even recite the Quran itself. Yes, right.
Is it not the intention that what they are doing? They are reciting ayah of Quran, but their intention is to make dua.
For which case, this dua dhikr or the reciting of Quran? Sorry?
That's the part of Quran, but the intention is to make dua, so they don't need to have state of purity, because the intention is to make dua.
That's why they are allowed to make dua even in the state of impurity, major impurity. No problem with that. All right. Even saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, it's part of Quran, right?
Yes.
You say it all the time, so it's okay, no problem. Next one is the actual intimacy between husband and wife. Is that permissible? If you are already in janaba because of sexual defilement, you don't need to have ghusl. You can still continue, and you don't need to have ghusl. But for hayd and nifas, general intimacy is allowed. But when it comes to actual sexual act, then that is what is not allowed. Okay, and this is a serious thing. And in fact, there is if somebody does involve in this action, then they have to pay kafara. They have to pay a penalty. How much is that? It's according to one hadith, it says 1 dinar or half a dinar, right? So it's about maybe like $10 or so. So that's what they have to give. It's like a kafara. If a man doesn't know that woman was in her menses and was involved in the act, then the blame is not on him. it's on the sister. But sometimes sisters are so much confused that I don't know if I completed my menses or not. And that's why I want to cover one section just talking about those different things. And even men need to understand these things, different types of blood and when it stops exactly and what are the different levels of those and what the common questions are of sisters. Inshallah, if we have time. Probably next week, Brother Salman is going to come, and probably the next week after that also. We'll see, inshallah. Before Ramadan, maybe take one session out. Just one more thing for your information. And a sister is in Hayd, menses. A man cannot give a divorce, okay? So that's one just information that I'm throwing at you. So she has to come out of her menses and then only he can divorce her. Otherwise, it's not accepted.